The wind blew cold across the broken land. Once this place had been a shining colony full of light and life. Now only ruins remained. The sky was dark, clouds heavy with dust. And the silence, it whispered like ghosts. Valara sat on a stone near the edge of what was once a garden. Her silver eyes stared out at the empty field, but her mind was far away. Her daughter, Mina, slept close by, curled up in a blanket that had too many holes. The child was thin, too thin. They had not eaten for 2 days. Valara touched her daughter's forehead gently. Mina didn't move. She was warm, too warm. Fever again. Valara looked up at the dark sky. Her voice was low, cracked from thirst. Is anyone out there? Please. Just one person. Just one ship. She had sent the distress signal days ago. A simple message. Widow and child. No food. No medicine. Please help. No answer. No reply. No hope. People called her cursed. Ever since her mate died from a strange sickness, others who came close started falling ill. First it was her neighbors, then even a medic who tried to help. Fear spread fast. Soon no one would come near her or Mina. She wasn't cursed. She was just unlucky. Suddenly, a loud beeping sound came from the wrecked comm station nearby. Valara stood quickly. Her legs were weak, but she moved fast. She pressed the button. A human voice came through the static. This is Ethan Cole, salvager ship Torchlight. I received your signal. Landing in 3 minutes. Hold position. Valara's heart jumped. A human? Coming here? She looked down at Mina. Her daughter needed help. Food, water, medicine, anything. But her thoughts raced. What if he tries to take her child? What if he wants something in return? What if he gets sick too? Still, she couldn't stop the small light of hope in her chest. For the first time in months, minutes passed. Then she heard it, a deep hum in the sky. The clouds parted. Just a little, and a small ship came through. It was gray and battered, but it moved smooth and steady. It landed not far from the ruined colony, dust rising in thick clouds. The hatch opened with a hiss. Out stepped a man, tall, brown hair, dark clothes, helmet under one arm. He walked carefully, eyes scanning everything. Valara stood in front of the shelter, covering Mina's small body behind her. The man stopped a few steps away. I'm Ethan Cole, he said. I got your signal. You all right? Valara's voice was firm. Stay back. Ethan raised both hands. Not here to hurt you, just bringing food and supplies. You sound like you need it. She studied his face. He looked tired, but honest. She saw no fear in his eyes. No disgust. You don't know what we are, she said quietly. They call us cursed. Ethan gave a small smile. I've heard worse. I've been to cursed places before. Never believed in ghosts. He dropped a bag slowly on the ground. There's water, food packs, some meds. I'll stay away if you want, but the kid looks sick. Valara hesitated. Then she stepped forward and picked up the bag. She opened a water bottle and quickly poured some into Mina's dry mouth. The child stirred. A soft sound came from her lips. It was the first time she had moved all day. Valara didn't cry, but her shoulders shook. Ethan slowly sat down on a stone, still keeping distance. I'm not rich. I'm not a hero, he said. I fix junk, trade old tech. But when I got your signal, I couldn't just ignore it. Valara looked at him. Why? No one else came. He shrugged. I guess I'm just stubborn. The wind howled again. The ruins whispered their secrets. But for the first time in a long time, Valara didn't feel completely alone. Your ship, she said, is it clean? Not broken? It flies, needs a new nav system, but it'll get you off this rock if that's what you want. She shook her head. I can't leave. Not yet. There's something beneath the ground. Old tech. Dangerous. It's why people died. Why we got sick. Ethan frowned. What kind of tech? I don't know. It hums at night. Like it's alive. Ethan leaned forward slightly. Maybe I can take a look. Might be worth something. Or maybe it's what's causing the sickness. Valara stood silent for a moment. Then she nodded. You can stay, but only until Mina gets better. Deal, he said. She turned and walked back to her daughter, feeling the warmth of hope again. For the first time in months, someone had come. But deep beneath the ground, something ancient stirred, and it had just noticed the human. The next morning, the clouds over the ruined colony were thinner. Faint light touched the broken towers and empty buildings like fingers of hope. Inside the shelter, Mina was still sleeping, her breathing a little better now. Her fever had gone down, just a little, but enough for Valara to feel the weight on her chest loosen. Outside, Ethan Cole was already awake. He had set up a small camp near the wrecked wall. His tools were laid out neatly. He had already repaired one of the broken solar panels and connected it to a power cell. A small generator hummed softly. The soft sound brought life back to the silence. Valara stepped out, watching him from a distance. She didn't trust him completely, but she couldn't ignore what he had done in just one night. Already their shelter was warmer, and she had clean water again. Ethan looked up and smiled. Morning. You work fast, she said, crossing her arms. Time's precious, he replied. Especially on a place like this. One wrong move and you're sleeping next to a crater. Valara almost smiled. Ethan stood and pointed to the far side of the colony. I scanned the ground last night. You're right, there's something under the soil, something old. Maybe buried tech. I picked up a pulsing signal. Very low, but it's still alive. Valara's eyes darkened. That's the curse. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You really believe it's a curse? She looked at him. I believe everyone who touched it died. That's enough for me. Ethan didn't argue. Then let's be careful. He walked over to the edge of the colony, where broken steps led into what used to be a bunker. The stairs were half buried in sand, but the door was still sealed shut. Valara followed slowly, staying just behind him. You said you were a salvager, she said. Why come here? Ethan chuckled. Honestly, I was chasing scrap, heard rumors about old alien tech buried out here. Then I picked up your signal. Thought it might be a trap. Maybe it is, she replied quietly. Ethan smirked. If it is, it's the kindest trap I've ever walked into. He knelt beside the door and ran a scanner across it. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the metal. Not human, not any common language. This tech, it's not from your people, is it? He asked. Valara shook her head. It was here before us. We built the colony around it. We didn't even know it was alive until it started humming. Then people got sick. Power systems failed. Machines acted strange. Ethan nodded slowly, like it was waking up. A sharp beep came from his scanner. He looked down. Whatever's under here, it's not just alive, it's reacting to us, it knows we're here. Valara stepped back. Ethan stood. I won't go in yet. I'll reinforce the area first. No point in dying because a ceiling decides to fall. Suddenly, a sound made them freeze. Mina's scream echoed from the shelter. Valara turned and ran. Ethan followed, heart racing. They reached the shelter in seconds. Mina was sitting up crying. Her hands were shaking. Valara knelt beside her. What happened? She asked softly. Mina pointed to the wall. It was there, a shadow. It was whispering. Ethan scanned the room. No life forms, no movement. But he heard it. Very faint. A whisper. Not like words. Not like wind. It was mechanical. Cold. Alive. Valara wrapped her arms around Mina. Ethan stood still. His face was hard. That wasn't your imagination, he said. Something's reaching out. Mina looked up. It doesn't like you, human. Ethan didn't smile this time. He looked at the ground, and for the first time, he felt something strange. something not human, watching him. At night, the colony whispered louder. The wind passed through broken walls and empty streets like it carried a message. It wasn't just the rustling of metal or the creak of old structures, it was something else, something alive. Ethan didn't sleep. He sat on top of his ship, flashlight off, listening. He had traveled to many dead worlds, explored ghost stations, even salvaged a ship drifting near a black hole. But this place, it felt wrong in a quiet, careful way. Below him, Valara stayed awake too. She held her daughter in her arms, rocking her gently. Mina was still sick, but her eyes were open. She didn't speak much, just stared at the dark corner of the shelter as if something was watching from there, and maybe it was. That night, Ethan reviewed the readings again. His scanner had caught something under the surface deeper than he expected. The pulse wasn't just a signal. It was like a heartbeat. Slow, steady, old. The device was buried beneath the center of the colony. Possibly alien, possibly dangerous, possibly hungry? At dawn, Ethan approached Valara. "I want to see it," he said. Valara didn't answer at first. Then she looked him in the eyes. "People went down there. None came back." "I'm not like most people," Ethan replied. "No," she whispered. "You're human. That makes you more reckless." "Still," she agreed. They walked to the edge of the central plaza, where an old transport hub had collapsed. Underneath was a forgotten maintenance tunnel that led deep underground. Mina stayed in the shelter, watched by a small auto-drone Ethan had set up for protection. Valara led the way, holding a light stick. Her steps were cautious. Ethan followed, close behind, his scanner strapped to his arm, blinking fast. The tunnel grew colder the deeper they went. The walls changed, first metal, then stone, then something else, something black and smooth like glass but warm to the touch. Valara touched the wall and pulled her hand back. "It reacts to heat," she said. "It remembers us." Ethan stopped. "Remembers?" "We built over a grave, human," she replied. "But whatever is buried here never really died." Finally, they reached the chamber. A giant sphere floated in the center. It wasn't touching the ground, it wasn't connected to anything. It just floated, pulsing softly with deep red light. Ethan stared in silence. He had never seen anything like it. The air around it buzzed, like bees in his skull. The closer he got, the more the whispers returned, but now they had shape, form, words. "We see you. We remember. You are not hers." Valara stepped back. Ethan took one step forward. His scanner blinked wildly. "Radiation, yes. But also something deeper. Biosignatures, memory echoes, energy patterns that didn't belong to this time." "What is it?" he asked. Valara's voice was low. "It was called the Listener. Our scientists believed it was a thinking weapon. Not just one that kills, but one that listens, learns, and adapts." "And it's been listening all this time?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "And it hates." Suddenly the sphere flared with light. Ethan was thrown back by an invisible force, hitting the wall hard. Sparks flew from his scanner. Valara screamed his name, but he stood up slowly, blood on his forehead. "It spoke," he said. "What did it say?" He looked at her. "It said, 'She belongs to us.'" Valara turned pale. The ground shook slightly, far above them in the shelter. Mina opened her eyes. She sat up suddenly as if called and whispered, "They're coming." The tremor was brief, but deep, like a beast stretching beneath the earth. Dust fell from the tunnel ceiling as Valara helped Ethan back to his feet. His nose was bleeding, but he wiped it quickly. His eyes stayed locked on the floating sphere. It had dimmed again, but now a low hum filled the air, steady and sharp like a warning. Valara spoke fast. "We have to go. Now. If it's awake, it won't stay quiet for long." Ethan didn't argue. He picked up his damaged scanner, now flickering with static, and followed her back up the passage. When they reached the surface, the sky had changed. Dark clouds swirled in unnatural circles above the colony, and the air smelled of metal and lightning. Ethan looked around and realized something was wrong with the machines. His drone was frozen, its eyelight dark. The tech was being disrupted, and Mina stood outside the shelter. She stared up at the sky, her small face still and unreadable. Mina. Valara ran to her daughter, pulling her close, but Mina didn't blink. "They're calling," she said softly. The voices from the ground. Ethan kneeled beside her. "What are they saying?" Mina turned her gaze to him. "They said, if you don't leave, they'll take all of us." An hour later, inside the shelter, Ethan finally heard the full story. Valara sat across from him, her hands wrapped around a hot drink he had made from emergency rations. Her face looked older now, tired, worn by secrets too long buried. "My people didn't just build here," she said. "We discovered the sphere a decade ago. We didn't know what it was. It was asleep, silent, cold. The scientists wanted to study it, until they noticed the dreams." Ethan listened quietly. "People had visions," Valara continued. "Strange thoughts, nightmares. The sphere reached into their minds and fed on their fear. We thought it was just stress. Then people started getting sick, their bodies shut down like something had rewritten them from the inside." "And the deaths?" Ethan asked. Valara's voice cracked. "The sphere chose who lived and who died. It marked us. My mate was one of the first. He got close to it. Too close. After he died, they said I carried the curse now. I couldn't find work, couldn't leave. And with Mina being born so close to it, they said she was born tainted." Ethan leaned back. "You were abandoned." "Yes," she said quietly. "By everyone." He looked at Mina, now sleeping. "But she's not cursed. She's connected. She can hear it." Valara nodded. "And it can hear her." Ethan stood and paced. "I think the sphere was built to control or manipulate entire species through fear. It doesn't use weapons, it uses despair." Valara met his eyes. "Then why didn't it kill you?" "I think..." Ethan paused, thinking. "I think it can't read humans the same way. Or maybe it's trying to learn how to." They both fell silent. Then Ethan said something that surprised her. "I'm staying. Not for long. Just enough to shut that thing down." Valara stood sharply. "You'll die if you go near it again." "Maybe," Ethan said. "But I've seen what it does to people like you. I've seen the cost. If I can end it, I have to. Try." Valara's voice shook. "Why?" "You don't owe us anything." Ethan looked at her. "That's exactly why. Someone should do something simply because it's right." Later that night, Ethan stood outside staring at the ruined colony. He had gathered tools, rewired parts from his ship, and reprogrammed a sensor drone to work like a pulse disruptor. It was risky. One wrong calculation, and he could trigger whatever energy the sphere held, but he had a plan. Behind him, Valara stepped out, watching him in silence. He didn't turn. "If I don't come back..." "Don't," she interrupted. "Don't say it." He finally turned. Valara's voice was low. "I believed we were cursed. I thought no one would help us. I was wrong." Ethan gave her a soft smile. "You weren't wrong. You were just alone." They stood together for one quiet moment, before the ground whispered again, but this time it sounded angry. The storm began without warning. One moment the sky was dark with clouds, the next, it was full of fire. Valara looked up from the shelter door and saw a streak of burning red tear across the sky. It wasn't lightning, it was a ship. Ethan grabbed his binoculars and climbed to the top of a nearby structure. Through the haze, he spotted it. A scavenger vessel. Big, armored, ugly. Not a rescue ship, not a trader. Pirates. They must have picked up the sphere's power surge. Or maybe Ethan's signal had drawn more than help. "They're landing," Ethan said, voice low. Valara's face went pale. "If they find Mina..." "I know," Ethan said. He ran back down, checked his gear, and grabbed his pulse disruptor. It wasn't ready yet. It needed more calibration. But time had run out. "We hide," Valara said. "We've done it before." Ethan shook his head. "No, you hide. I'll distract them." Minutes later, the pirate ship landed in the central plaza. 3 figures stepped out armed and armored. One was tall with cybernetic limbs, another had a scanner helmet, and the third dragged a crate like he was expecting loot. "Signal came from here," the tall one said. "Old alien tech. Rare stuff. Let's find it before someone else does." Ethan walked out from behind the rubble with his hands raised. "Hey," he called. "Looking for something?" All 3 turned. Well, the cyborg growled. "A human cockroach." Ethan smiled. "I prefer salvager." They raised their weapons. "I wouldn't do that," Ethan said, stepping slowly backward. "There's something down there, something alive. You wake it too hard, it doesn't play nice." "We're not here to play," the pirate with the scanner said. "Where's the tech?" Ethan pointed away from the shelter. "Old chamber. I'll show you." As they followed him, Ethan tapped a tiny device on his wrist. A silent signal flashed through the air. Back at the shelter, Valara grabbed Mina and rushed into the hidden basement. She locked the hatch and pulled a dusty tarp over them. Mina looked up at her mother. "Will he be okay?" Valara didn't answer. Ethan led the pirates into the tunnel. The sphere chamber pulsed faintly in the dark. The energy in the air felt thicker now, angrier. The tall pirate stepped closer. "What is this?" "It's not yours," Ethan said softly. "What?" The chamber exploded with light. The sphere suddenly sent out a shockwave. All 3 pirates screamed as their tech sparked and burned. The scanner helmet cracked. The cyborg's arm caught fire. The last one dropped to the ground, twitching. Ethan dove behind the wall, covering his ears. The sphere had responded to them. Their greed, their violence. It hated them. But now, it was awake and hungry. Outside, Valara felt the ground shake again. She grabbed Mina and rushed out of the shelter just in time to see the pirate ship lift off, without its crew. The ship turned toward the sphere's location, scanning wildly. But something was wrong. From deep beneath the colony, a column of red energy blasted into the sky, slamming into the pirate vessel like a spear. The ship caught fire midair, spiraled out of control, and exploded above them in a shower of metal and flame. Valara shielded Mina as burning debris fell all around. It looked like fire raining from the sky. Ethan stumbled out of the tunnel entrance, coughing, burned, bleeding, but alive. Valara ran to him, eyes wide. "You're still standing," he said. Mina ran to his side and hugged him tightly. The sphere had gone silent again, for now. But something was different. The ground wasn't whispering anymore. It was watching. Waiting. Valara looked at Ethan, her voice low. "You didn't run, you stayed." "I said I would," he answered. "But why? Why risk your life for strangers?" Ethan looked toward the black smoke rising from the pirate wreck. Because someone has to protect what others throw away. Night fell again over the broken colony, but peace did not come with it. Though the pirate ship had been destroyed, others would come. The sphere had roared. Its power had reached beyond the sky. Now, more scavengers, slavers, or worse could be on their way. Ethan sat in the corner of the shelter, wrapping a bloodied bandage around his shoulder. The sphere's energy had scorched his skin. He could still hear its last whisper inside his skull. "You are not one of hers. Leave, or be consumed." Valara sat nearby, eyes locked on her sleeping daughter. Mina had collapsed after the firestorm, her body drained by the connection to the sphere. "She can't stay here," Ethan said quietly. "That thing knows she's part of this place now." Valara nodded slowly. "We don't belong anywhere. Not anymore." Ethan stared at her. "You belong with people who care. I'm not leaving her, or you." Valara turned to him, surprised. "You'd take us?" Even after all this? I came for salvage, Ethan said with a faint smile, but I found something more valuable than tech. Before dawn, they began preparing to leave. Ethan checked what remained of his ship, badly damaged but flight-worthy. Just one problem. The core reactor was unstable. He needed a rare energy cell to jump out of orbit safely, and there was only one place nearby where that cell could be found: the crashed pirate ship. Ethan didn't wait. He left quietly before Valara or Mina woke, heading through the ash-covered ruins toward the smoldering wreck. The pirate ship was a twisted skeleton of metal and fire. The wind blew smoke and the smell of burnt circuits. Ethan climbed into the main hull, gun in one hand, flashlight in the other. He found the cell buried deep under the engine deck, still intact, still glowing. He grabbed it, turned to leave, and froze. A sound. A voice. "Don't move." One of the pirates, half-burned, barely breathing, raised a weapon at him. "You ruined everything." Ethan stepped back slowly, keeping his hands raised. But before the pirate could pull the trigger, a small blur moved in the smoke, and then crash. A rock slammed into the pirate's face. Ethan turned in shock. It was Mina. She had followed him. He ran to her, pulling her close. "Are you crazy? You could have been killed." She looked up with stubborn eyes. "You didn't say goodbye." Before Ethan could respond, another groan came from the side. The pirate was still alive. More movement in the wreckage. Too many for just one survivor. Ethan grabbed Mina's hand. "We run, now." Back at the shelter, Valara woke to silence. Too much silence. Mina's blanket was empty. Her breath caught. "Mina?" She rushed outside and saw them, Ethan carrying Mina, running through the ruins as two limping pirates, chased behind, firing weak blasts. Valara didn't hesitate. She grabbed Ethan's old pulse blaster from the ground and sprinted out. She met them at the edge of the colony. One of the pirates aimed at Ethan's back, and a shot rang out. Valara stood firm, smoke rising from the barrel. The pirate fell. The other ran. Ethan turned, still holding Mina. His voice cracked. "You saved me?" Valara stepped closer, eyes wild. "You left with my child." "She followed me," he said, gasping. "To protect me." Valara looked at Mina, who was smiling weakly in his arms. "He needed me." The mother's eyes softened. Ethan placed Mina down gently. Then he knelt in front of Valara and held out the glowing power cell. "I got what we need. We can leave." Valara stared at it. Then she looked at him, and suddenly something changed in her face. Something ancient buried deep in her people's culture. She reached forward and placed her palm on his chest right above his heart. Ethan blinked. "What is that?" "It's a bond," she said quietly. "A promise." "For what?" "That from this moment forward, we don't face this galaxy alone." The sky over the ruined colony was no longer black. For the first time in years, soft morning light broke through the storm clouds. Not much, but enough to turn the broken glass into something almost beautiful. Ethan stood near his ship, the power core now glowing steadily within its compartment. He ran one last systems check. Flight was possible. Risky, but possible. Behind him, Valara tightened the straps of a small travel bag. She carried only what mattered: some dried food, 2 energy capsules, and Mina's favorite toy, an old plush shaped like a sky bird. Mina held her mother's hand tightly, her big eyes staring at the sky with wonder. She had never left this world. She had never even dreamed it was possible. Now they were leaving it together. Before departure, Ethan walked once more to the center of the colony. The ground was quiet. The sphere had stopped humming, but it wasn't gone. He stared at the stone, beneath his boots, whispering under his breath, "I'm taking them away. You had your time." No answer came. No whisper. No tremor. But something deep within the earth seemed to watch. Back at the ship, Valara waited at the ramp, watching Ethan return. You said you've traveled to many stars, she said. Too many, he replied. All alone. You're not alone anymore, he paused. You sure you could stay? The sphere is sleeping. Maybe it'll stay that way. Valara shook her head. This place was a prison, even before the whispers. She glanced down at Mina, who now ran up the ramp and peeked into the cockpit with wide eyes. She deserves more than ghosts, Valara said. Ethan nodded. All right then, he said. Buckle up. The ship rose slowly from the surface. Dust swirled as the engines lifted them higher. Below, the ruins shrank. The valley grew smaller. The shadows of a cursed past faded into the gray rock. Valara stood beside Ethan in the cockpit, Mina strapped into the co-pilot's seat. What happens now? She asked. Ethan smiled, adjusting the controls. Now, we find a quiet place, clean water, fresh food, a sky that doesn't whisper. Valara looked at him. That simple? He nodded. For now, one day at a time. She leaned against the wall, eyes soft. I never thought someone would come for us. Ethan glanced at her. Sometimes people don't need saving. They just need someone to show up. As the ship pierced through the cloud cover, Mina gasped. Stars. Real stars. Endless and shining. She pressed her hands to the window and whispered, It's beautiful. Ethan looked forward. So many stars. So many places. So many second chances. Valara stepped behind him and rested her hand lightly on his shoulder. Her voice was warm. You didn't just save us, Ethan. You gave us back our future. He didn't answer right away. He simply smiled and whispered, more to himself than to them. Guess I wasn't looking for salvage after all. And as the cursed world vanished behind them, the new sky opened wide, waiting.